What's happening, runners? Welcome back to another episode of This Week in Athletics. This show is basically where we round up everything that's been going on, all the headlines, all the results, and anything that's worth talking about in the last 7 days. So we've got a lot to get through. Let's dive straight in. First thing we're going to talk about is the Valencia Marathon. Not only was I out there, the Tractor team was out there, and it was one of the latest weekends I've ever had, but the race itself was absolutely insane. The winning time for the men's and women's was some of the fastest we've ever seen. And also, Valencia Marathon have come out and said that anyone that breaks the world record next time around will get €1 million. So basically, you are guaranteed a world record next time that it happens in December 2024. Kelvin Kipton's probably sitting there and rubbing his hands thinking, yeah, bruh, €1 million, cheers. But let's talk about the men's race. 28 men were inside the Olympic qualifying mark of 2 hours, 8 minutes and 10 seconds. Now, while some of you are listening to that and maybe thinking, oh, that's an easy standard, loads of African runners can do that, let's think about the French, the Portuguese, the German athletes like Richard Ringer, Phil Sesemann, Mohammed, the Brits that were going for it. That's a tough standard to achieve to then have to, run the Olympics next year in Paris. To have 28 men inside that just shows the depth in this race. The men's podium was kicked off with Sesemann of Ethiopia. He took the win in a course record of 2 hours, 1 minute and 48 seconds. Incredible winning time. He stormed away from the field and looked pretty easy down the home straight as well. Alexander Matiso from Kenya was second in a time of 2 hours, 3 minutes and 11 seconds. And rounded off the podium was Dewit Walde from Ethiopia, who took bronze on the day in a time of 2 hours, 3 minutes and 48 seconds. But ultimately, what really did steal the show was our fourth place finisher, the OG GOAT, Kenenisa Bekele, who came fourth in a time of 2 hours and 4 minutes. And he broke the world record for the 40-plus age category. I mean, the guy's still out there killing it, running world-class times. I was lucky enough to catch him at the finish for an interview. This is what he had to say about not only running really well on the day, but also debuting for his new sponsor, Chinese sportswear brand, Anta.
So, Kenenisa Bekele, unbelievable to see you on the marathon start line once again. Obviously, first race out in the new sponsor. In terms of the race itself, what are your initial thoughts coming off?
Yeah, was fantastic race, but really I like the course. The course was amazing. I never seen like this course. It was flat and smooth, so I'm very happy with the course. About result, of course, I'm happy with new sponsorship and I came back from from injury like 3 months before. I was not so good.
With everything that you've achieved in your career, you have literally conquered it all. How does it feel to not just negotiate a successful marathon, but still be running world-class times and being able to mix with such great athletes in this beautiful city?
Of course, preparation very important. Discipline. Strong in mental and of course physically. It's possible.
Brilliant. Well, thanks so much for chatting to us, Kenenisa. Best of luck for the next race, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Now, from the Brits' perspective, it was Mohammed who picked Phil Sesemann to take the first Brit on the day. He finished in 34th place in a time of 2 hours, 8 minutes and 42 seconds. And Sesemann was just 2 places back in 2 hours, 8 minutes and 48 seconds. Now, both of them agonisingly just missing that Olympic qualifying mark of 2:08.10. But we've got Seville in February. We've got London on home soil in April. And I spoke to Phil after the race, and this is what he had to say about his performance.
Right, Phil, so just catching up with you after the race, we got about 2:08.50, so new personal best. What are the initial thoughts coming off?
It's bittersweet. I really thought I kind of had that fitness to do the time. And I think that maybe cardiovascularly wise, maybe I'm pretty close. But I'm not sure if I've conditioned the body perfectly to run that fast for that long continuously. That's the fun bit of the marathon. It's not just get as fit as possible, it's get fit and get conditioned, and I like that with the training and planning and doing it, but maybe just slightly off it this time.
Now, switching to the women's race with an Olympic standard of 2:26.50, we had athletes from Ethiopia, Kenya, Europe, Australia, all chasing that mark. And it was Ethiopia who took a clean sweep of the podium. Worknesh Degefa absolutely blew the field away, taking the win in 2 hours, 15 minutes and 51 seconds. In second, it was the track queen herself, Almaz Ayana, coming home in a time of 2 hours, 16:22. And taking bronze on the day was Hiwot Gebrekiden, yet another Ethiopian Ethiopian in a time of 2 hours 17:59. It was Lily Partridge who took first Brit on the day, securing that Olympic qualifying time and finishing inside the top 25. So let's go to the other side of the world and talk all things 24-hour running. Yes, there are people out there that run for 24 hours for fun, apparently. So over in China, in the IAU 24-hour World Running Championships, it was an incredible test of endurance, and they had to run laps of 2 kilometers. Can you imagine running 2 kilometers laps for 24 hours? Madness. Now, in terms of the men's race, it was all about a cumulative distance. So your first 3 finishes in your country would be total together, and whoever ran the furthest distance would then be determined the first, second, and third placed. Lithuania dominated and took the gold with a distance of 813 kilometers, and Poland took the bronze with a distance of 787 kilometers. Now, Poland actually performed really well in the women's race as well. They took the gold with a distance of 726 kilometers. Japan took second place with a distance of 702 kilometers, and it was the Czech Republic who took bronze in the women's race in a distance of 697 kilometers. Now, I'm sad to say that UK athletics, they are back in the headlines, and all for the wrong reasons. I feel like this is just happening every few months now. They're always in the news, and it's never a positive. It's never UK athletics hit their goal. UK athletics have a fantastic Christmas party. Nah, UK athletics are skint. That's generally how it all works at the moment. And unfortunately, we're going down the same road again because they have reported a loss of £3.7 million. And that is a sum of money that is not falling down the back of a sofa. Unfortunately, not having a title sponsor and not having any television deals in the lead up to Paris Games has obviously contributed to this massive financial setback. Ian Beattie, the chair of UKA, has said that this will have no impact on UKA going bankrupt and will have no negative impact on the athletes and the support that they get in the lead up to the Games next year. Now, it's not all negative at UKA. They have signed a kit deal with Nike from 2030 to 2040, but unfortunately, there is no sign of any cash injection due to accounting rules. So ultimately, we need to find some money from somewhere. Now, in 2022, we lost title sponsor Muller, and they failed to renew the television deal with the BBC, which was worth £3 million a year. Now, the Diamond League this last July did sell out. Over 50,000 fans packed in the London Stadium. The tracks the team were there, and it was fire, incredible atmosphere, and all the athletes and coaches and people that were involved in the event from around the world were saying, why not all events at London? Why not all events in the UK? They know how to put a crowd on. Well, what if I told you that even though they sold that event out, there was a loss of between £100,000 and £500,000? Something is not quite right there. How are you selling out stadiums, putting on successful events, and losing not just a fiver, you're losing £500,000? So something is not quite right there. Whether it's whoever owns the stadium are charging the governing body too much, I don't know. But you cannot put on events that sell out and have a loss. That doesn't work. There's a break in the circuit there. Now, the darkest point of this whole story is that Ian Beattie, the chair, has come out and said that unfortunately some areas of our sport, for example, junior races and cross-country, may have to seek alternative funding. And I see this being a very slippery slope that if we start to go down, we're looking at serious suffering. Now, I think a potential alternative is athletes to self-fund themselves to go to races and championships. Athletes like Eilish McColgan, for example, are sponsored by ASICS. Let's imagine that for some reason she wants to go and run a race that Great Britain can't afford to send her to. Well, she's going to be on a fat enough contract from ASICS and all of her other deals to pay for herself to get there. There are athletes that would be able to afford these races to get themselves there, or at least crowdfund, or at least somehow go around the pubs and have a whip around so that we can get our athletes to these races and to these championships. Just relying on the governing bodies is clearly, it's not secure enough anymore, especially when we're looking at the financial losses that are happening in front of us. Now, let's look ahead. Let's look more positively. UK has said that the projection is that by 2025, they are going to look to break even. Whether or not that's going to happen, we're going to have to wait and see. But they are in talks with London Marathon Events and the Great Run Company to sponsor them and obviously fund them, but nothing yet has been signed. It's a challenging road ahead for UK athletics. Us at Tracksday and all running fans want them to turn it around. I just hope that they can work collectively and sort it out. Now, before we wrap up this week in athletics, on the Trackstar podcast this week, we had Sarah Mcdonald, friend of the show, on running professional athlete and 1500 metre absolute beast. The interview was very fun for me to have. I've known Sarah for a little while now, and we spoke about all things from her new sponsor, her setup in Birmingham, coming back from an insane amount of injuries. You won't believe, I can't even remember half of them, and what is next for her in her career. Here's a quick snippet, and you can find the full episode available now on all major platforms.
I always feel like I do have a higher level of cross-training than I did before, and that's just something that I now have to do just to be able to manage my workload. But I would say, like, she always has to be the queen of the show. I would say that I've, like, it's really, like, anyone that's coming back from a period of injury like this, it's really difficult not to have, like, a high level of injury anxiety, especially, like, everyone gets DOMs, or everyone gets a bit tight from time to time. Like, you've done a hard track session and it's hard not to let your mind, like, escalate. Like, for instance, it was only last week that I had, like, a bit of, like, quad tightness because I'd done some hard falls on the track. And I was like, oh my God, I've got a stress response. And then 2 days later, lo and behold, my DOMs had gone and I was absolutely fine again.
So that's all for this week in athletics. We've got another video coming out all about the NCAA, because the NCAA the last week was so fire with Graham Blanks, Parker Valby, Nico Young. It was all going on in that Boston University meet. So we've done a special video for that. But I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you next week to round up this week's athletics news. Have a good week.